Hey, everybody, welcome to a new episode of the Hemmings Hot Rod BBQ podcast. Back with me today is Ryan Douthit of Driving Sports TV. He is our resident new car expert, truck expert. And today is going to be a fun show for a couple of reasons. One, Ryan has just gotten into a couple of e-bikes. They're both two-wheel drive, which is kind of neat. One lets you shut one wheel off and use the other, and the other is just a regular two-wheel drive kind of overlanding type of bike. We are then going to jump to the Dodge Last Call event, specifically the Demon launch. I was there. I saw the car. I saw the launch. It was great. And then we're also going to hit on the brand new Dodge Hornet, which I recently test drove. And we're going to compare that to a bunch of stuff that Ryan test drives on a daily basis. Ryan, how are you, sir?
I am doing great. And I'm so jealous that you went to the Last Call event. I did not get the invite for that. Oh,
so where do you want to start? You want to start with EVs? Or you want to jump right into the big horsepower stuff?
Jump into the big horsepower stuff, and then we'll end with the e-bikes.
Sounds good. Okay, so Dodge Last Call. This happened last week at Las Vegas Motor Speedway in Las Vegas, Nevada. And let me tell you something. It was a thing. If you guys are fans of Dodge, if you follow the brand, you know that CEO Tim Kuniskis is somewhat of a maniac. The guy, if there's something that's going to go big, Tim is going to do it. He's going to look at his staff and he's going to be like, you know what? I think we should probably just launch a car on the moon. Like, can we do that? And what's astonishing to me is that everything that he says to happen happens. So just to give you an idea, we're at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Everybody's sitting there. All of a sudden, this twin rotor helicopter comes flying out of the back by the thing. You know, Nellis Air Force Base is there. So we got this helicopter coming in. There's a Demon hanging from a hook. It comes down on the drag strip, whatever. Now, this is a very, very interesting car. And the reason, this is the mic drop. This is the mic drop for what I'm looking at as the big V8 internal combustion muscle car. Okay. When you look at the specs of this thing, it's pretty astounding. It makes 1,025 horsepower and 945 pound-feet of torque on ethanol. And on regular pump gas, 900 horsepower and 810 pound-feet of torque.
It sounds like an EV, Mike.
It's not just like an EV, right? And they've updated all the internals of the motors. Really, not a lot left of the original Demon motor. They bumped the blower from 2.7 to 3 liters. It runs a 315/50 series drag radial on the back. You know, looks wise, it's similar to the original Demon from 2018, where it is missing the actual front fender flares.
So how fast was it? Is the big question. Like, what was the drag runs?
First, 891 at 151. I'm going to say that again. 8.91 seconds at 151 miles an hour.
And that's with DOT approved drag radials, right?
That is with DOT
legal drag radials.
Street legal drag radials with a warranty, mind you. Okay. Then you've got the direct connection side of things, right? The performance parts place for Dodge and Mopar, where, you know what? They'll sell you a parachute because it has one. They'll sell you the cage because, you know, it has one, because if you run under 9 seconds, you have to have a parachute.
I mean, I hate to just bring up this old joke, but it's like, you know, like the CEO, maybe not the CEO, somebody at Dodge snorting cocaine off of a hooker's stomach.
Oh, dude, it's.
Oh, you want a parachute too? We can do that.
It's the best. This is why. All right, like everybody knows out there that I'm a Dodge fan. This is why I am, because if it's batshit crazy, they go, yeah, of course we can do that. Why can't we? And then I just feel like there's the committee, and they look around the room and be like, Frank, we could do this, right? Mark, we could do this. We could totally do this. Sure. Parachute? Why not? Yeah, put a parachute on.
So you're the one guy that can answer this question.
Yes.
As somebody who bought a Demon, how do you feel about being one-upped by what was already supposed to be the fastest mofo Dodge ever? So
I think, let's put it this way. I think and there are a lot of Demon owners out there that are upset about this. And I totally get it, because when the 2018 Demon was released, this is it. This is the mic drop. That was, 5 years ago. I honestly don't think they thought that the Hellcat was going to last this long. I don't think they thought they were going to be able to keep building it, but they were.
I think sales have been way better than they expected.
Sales, I mean, they're crushing. They can make these cars for another 5 years. They would still sell every one they made.
Yep.
Part of me is like, son of a bitch. But the other part of me is like, you know what? Keep going. Keep going. If this was the last one in 5 years, they came out with another one and made 2,500 horsepower, I'd be like, son of a bitch. But that's really cool. The difference
between you and other Demon owners, though, is that you also have like 4 to 5 other cars at any given time. Do you even own do you still have the Demon?
Yeah, we still have House of Muscle still has the Demon. Yep.
I've lost
we
track,
still have it.
Honestly. How many cars do you have, Mike?
Yeah, we've got 8 cars right now, which is not smart. But here's the biggest thing. Most Demon owners will never drive them. We've got like 9,000 miles on our car. Like we've raced it. We've done everything with that
you
car.
Drove like across the country with it.
Oh,
so that's like 4,000 miles there.
Oh yeah. But I think the biggest thing with the new car is that it is the mic drop for the big V8. It is the mic drop for the muscle car. Mm-hmm. And there are going to be those listening to this and they're going to bitch and moan and they're going to say, well, you're going to say it's an 8-second car. Nobody's going to be able to get into the 8-second range. And my response to that is just shut the fuck up. Enough. Okay. And here's why I'm saying that to you. Yes, Tesla, fine. Go out and run your 9 seconds, whatever you're going to run. Mm-hmm. Porsche 911 Turbo S, fine. Go out and do that. It will do that every single time. No question. Yep. Both those cars will.
Yep.
The thing about a drag car is that it's a traditional muscle car drag car. Massive V8 up front, rear wheel drive. This is not a plug and play. This is, you need to actually have skill to get the most out of this car. It's like, it would be like me going up to John Force's dragster and being like, well, the car's a 4-second car. Mike Musto's going to run a 21 seconds because he's terrified of that fucking thing. Like, I'm not getting in that car, right? But just because he can do it doesn't mean I can do it. The Demon 170 is the same thing.
And I've done a lot of 0 to 60s in EVs, specifically all-wheel drive EVs with special launch codes and all that stuff. It's boring. It's like you have all-wheel drive grip, so you have the same grip every time, basically, because you're never spinning the wheels. And it's the exact same output, just because it's mechanical, it's electrical.
Correct.
It's like boom, 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 and you're like, okay, this is cool, but and then you see. Like I watched that video of the launch of that last call and the smoke and the noise and of course rear wheel drive. It's doing that with rear wheel drive, which a lot of people are like, oh yeah, Tesla Plaid will do that. It's like, yeah, but that's like electric all wheel drive.
Correct.
Automaton.
Correct. And there's no very fast. There's no learning. There's what I like about all drag cars, what I like about race cars, what I like about going to the racetrack is just because the car is capable, right? Yeah. You never want to lose that challenge to the driver or to the owner. Yeah. So like with our Demon, I think that car would run 960s in the quarter. The best I ever ran with it was like a 1031. And that's me, right? That's me trying to run. Now, if I gave myself another, I don't know how many runs at the track, it's been another thousands and thousands of dollars just honing my skill to drag strip. Could I get it down there? Possibly in perfect conditions. But that's what drag racing is. Right. Drag racing is a science between, proper air density, proper track prep, proper driver, proper tires. It is a challenge. And I like the idea that Dodge built a car for that reason, to still challenge the drivers, to be nostalgic and really kind of going back to the Dart Super Sports of back in the day and the Hemi cars and all that stuff, where the idea to get the most out of them was that you had to have skill. Right. And I'm sorry, but if your Tesla does that, you have no skill aside from if you can hold the wheel straight, you're going to do it. Yeah. A Demon 170 or an original Demon, that's a carnival ride, man. And you better hold on. And if you get it down into the 8s, well done, because you are a superstar. But I dig it, dude. I think let's put it this way. If I could find one, I'll say this right now. If I could find one, if I could get one and sticker, I'm going to buy it.
Okay, that's a challenge out there to all the dealers. Give Mike a call if you have one that you will sell at sticker, which we know the answer to that. You're not going
to. No, I'm ass out. I get it. I know. But if I can, I'm going to buy one.
I mean, I might as well say, if you can get 2 of them, I'll buy one too.
Right? Yeah.
That's not going to happen. So, and my wife would never let me, but yeah.
That's all right. You know somebody with one, so you can just drive mine.
There you go.
There you go. But no, the event itself was really cool. It was great to see. It was a great venue. The weather held. It was a carnival ride in all shapes.
They do events well. I've done a couple of events from like the whole Stellantis group over time.
Sure.
I mean, like I was slapped by Catronelle Menghia at a Fiat launch. You know, she was the actress who played the Italian, even though she's actually like Romanian. But anyway, I talked her into slapping me on stage. I mean, it's just like they bring out, it's like, wait a second, is that the model from the thing?
Right.
And everybody's like, oh, yeah, it is. And then she was part of it. I mean, it's just like
they're theater.
They're theater. They're really big on theater. Yeah. So switching gears then, you did the new Hornet launch.
I did.
Bringing back an old nameplate for a new
from AMC.
Yeah, not a lot of people have done that kind of thing.
Correct.
Everybody's done that kind of thing.
Yeah. So the Hornet, yes, I went to North Carolina and I did the Hornet long lead drive, which was actually pretty cool. And I'm not a fan of, I like SUVs. Yeah. I like full blown SUVs. I like trucks. I like cars. Crossovers are not really my thing. Like if it's an off-road SUV, I want to be able to go off-road. Like a performance crossover is really just an all-wheel drive hot hatch as far as I'm concerned.
It kind of is, yeah. Especially today. Like they've gotten any pretense of it being anything other than what it is, anything other than a hot hatch. It's like, it's a little taller. 1 inch more will sell more versions of it.
Exactly. But it was interesting. I went in and honestly, I wasn't expecting much. I was like, it's another crossover. It's got the new inline 4 Hurricane motor, turbocharged, and power is shockingly good. And I drove, I'm just going to talk about the Hornet GT Plus because that's what I drove. I had
you picked the
3 miles in the RT. But I could touch on that. But the GT Plus was the one that I drove, and that's 268 horsepower, 295 pound-feet of torque. Just throwing out some stats, 0 to 60 is like 6.5 seconds or something along those lines. The interesting part is the Hornet shares much of its architecture with the Alfa Romeo Tonale, which is the one right below the Stelvio.
Right.
Okay. And the way that they had set up the drive was we were in the back hills of North Carolina, similar to a route we took was similar to that of Tail of the Dragon, but not Tail of the Dragon. So tons of turns, changing elevations, and it was good. And I wasn't I wasn't expecting much. I was expecting body roll. I was expecting kind of a, yes, it's an inline 4 with a turbo, but I was expecting kind of a Weezomatic type of thing, right? Not the case. It was a really fun little crossover. And I'm going to say, I'm going to go to the hot hatch side on this because while it looks like a crossover, the GT Plus, it had the track pack. So it had it was on 20-inch wheels with Michelins on it with PS4s, which was a nice touch. Big Brembo brakes, sports suspension that has sport mode. You could kind of flop in and out.
Yeah.
But it handled. I mean, I was going harder and harder in the corners, and I was like, this isn't going to be, oh my God, holy crap, it did it.
You've driven the Stelvio Quadrifoglio, right?
Which is one of my favorites.
Absolutely.
Love it.
So good. Like the other one, the non-Quadrifoglio kind of leaves me cold, but the Quadrifoglio, it's special.
So
it's one of those special cars. Would you rate this as like the same where like it feels special, or does it just fast?
It feels... No, because the Quadrifoglio, the Stelvio is special. That has one of the best chassis in the business. And when you drive that thing at speed, you don't feel like you're driving an SUV. You feel like you're driving just a big sports sedan.
Right.
Plus, it makes the sounds. It has the theater to go with it. That is a very, very special. That's a very special vehicle. Yeah. And whomever has experienced one of those, I applaud you because they're wonderful. The Hornet GT Plus it's really good. Let's put it that way. I was hustling it through corners. The brakes are fabulous. I was not easy on it. If there's one micro downside to it, it is that 9-speed transmission, which is essentially a carryover from the Cherokee.
Yeah.
It doesn't hold a gear. Now, I was probably driving this thing a lot harder than 90% of the owners are going to drive it.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens is if you are, if you're on like a downhill and you're coming into a corner, you can grab the auto stick. You could kind of, I was constantly trying to push it down manually into a lower gear.
Mm-hmm.
And it just wouldn't drop into that lower gear, right? Because the RPMs were too high.
Right. It didn't want to play up in the upper ranges.
Exactly. You can, however, fool it. So like, you be on the gas, you can momentarily lift the gas, pop it in, and it kind of fools the electronics into being like, oh, okay, he's not being that aggressive. That's a lie. But you can do it that way. But between, I want to say 3,200 and like 5,400 RPM, this little motor just sings. It just sings.
Now, is this the same Turbo 4 that they're about to like put into everything? Because I know there's a new Turbo 4 going into the new Compass, which I owned a Compass last year, but it was so slow. I just couldn't handle it. I sold it after like 60 days.
I'm not 100% sure, but I think
they've been vague about that. So it's like, I need to look at numbers, I guess, and figure that one out.
That I don't know. I don't want to say and be incorrect. But Ryan, it was good. And here's the other thing: like they paid a lot of attention to the interior, which I like. It felt very upscale, and considering it starts at like around 30K, at like 29.9 or something like that.
Value.
It was for what you get, and even the cheapest cheapy model, the base model, comes with that engine and that transmission, which I thought was really cool. So it's still going to be quick out of the box.
They've been doing like over the last couple of years, they've done such a good job. So like people could say that like the Wagoneer might be a failure from certain perspectives.
Right. Sure.
But it did push the teams to get much better interiors. And then those interiors have trickled down to all the other products. And that's been really good, I think, for Jeep / Dodge / whomever, the whole family as a whole. One reason I picked up that 2022 Compass was, first off, it had a decent all-wheel drive system, which was good. Yeah. But also it had the brand new interior, and I kind of wanted to live with the interior for a little bit, and it was really good. I actually was kind of sad when I got rid of that vehicle, but then I remembered how slow it was, and then I'm like, maybe not so bad.
Well, that had that Tiger Shark 4-cylinder or whatever it was, crappy. That was garbage. That motor was garbage.
Yeah. But I also just recently, I was just driving the Grand Cherokee 4XE. I just had that last week.
Yes.
And again, very nice interior.
Really nice.
Some things I don't like the way that they do the little toggles for the off-road modes. It's a little, I don't know.
It's a little hokey.
Soccer mom, I guess, for me.
Yeah.
I don't need levers, but I want to at least be able to know what's going on under the hood of the car. It's
that's interesting because that's a good point with the Hornet. They definitely paid attention to the interior.
Yeah.
And what I liked was that I think they have the main dash screen, which is fully configurable, whatever the case. Yeah. And I think that's like, I want to say it's 12 or 13 inches.
Yeah, but most of them are around there now.
Yeah. But then they had the center screen, which is a little smaller, I'll say 11 inches or so. But what I really liked was that center screen is actually canted about 7 degrees towards the driver.
Oh, that's nice.
So when it's on the same eye level as the actual dash. So it's a very minor thing that makes a big difference from a driving perspective, because you're not looking down to try to find information on your touchscreen. You're not trying. It's literally, you're moving your eyes right over to the right and everything is right there. And the fact that they did cant the screen enough that it's driver centric, it was just little things like that are just, it was a nice touch, nice little touch.
Now it's kind of interesting because like a lot of the crossover market is going towards the ruggedification of the cars. You know, you have from the Ford Escape, which really didn't sell very well. I mean, it sold fine, but they got rid of the ruggedness with the Escape. So then they then sold the Bronco Sport, which is basically the same thing.
It's an Escape. Yeah,
it's just squarer.
Right.
It has some more off-road features added to it, and they cannot make enough of these. Subaru has their whole Wilderness line. Again, it's like they can't make enough of them.
And dude, I just had that. I just had as a press truck, I had the Forester Wilderness.
Oh, yeah.
And it was good.
Yeah.
It was good. But I'm going to say this, you'll understand because you're a Subaru guy. Why and anybody who's got a Subaru understands this, especially a Forester. That stupid little screen on the top of the dash that's inset all the way back.
Yeah.
Come on. Stop it.
It has
stop
a front camera that's this big.
That's that big. Like, just stop it, Subaru. Fix that.
Otherwise, they're getting rid of that actually in the next revision of the car because they're moving to the big tablet size display. Good. And it integrates everything into the tablet. They just did that with Impreza, and then that's going to eventually make its way over to Forester as well, so that they basically have the same vertical display on all their cars. You know, some people argue it's moving a lot of things into the display, like you have your aircon and all that. I would prefer if they kept aircon buttons, but they don't.
Yeah.
They move it into the display, not great. Just a slight segue here, because I just put out a video. It's Tuesday. It went out this morning where I took a Forester Wilderness over a rock climb through a couple foot deep water.
Okay.
So we waded through water, and we also did a hill climb as well.
How did it do?
I did great. You know, the biggest trick is having a smart approach to all these obstacles so that you don't hydrolock the motor, so you don't scrape the undercarriage too much and bend the chassis over the rocks. In that case, that means stacking a bunch of little rocks to help kind of create a little path over the rock garden. Yeah. But it did great, you know, and it has the same problem in those type of conditions that any other crossover would have. And that's that it's using a brake vectoring for the torque control.
Right.
So when it's trying to get grip, it's going to spin the wheels a little bit. And when you're doing that, you're kicking up rocks, you're eating trail, you're knocking the rocks out that you just put in your path, which is not ideal. That's why people spend the money on a Jeep, where you can get a hard lock on those wheels and just move together. But it's interesting, going back to the Hornet here, these people, are, like all the companies, are adding more and more money for these slightly better off-road versions. Right. And here is Dodge going, here's one that is $30,000 and it has 250 or 60 or whatever horsepower. Right. It's a hot hatch. Go get that.
But here's the thing, it was fun. Like that, you know, I'm not a crossover guy. I like SUVs. I like stuff that's purpose built. Yeah. Right.
Do you think it'll sell though?
You know what? If people get behind the wheel and they start shopping
without $5,000 on the hood, I mean, because
I think if they. So what I will say to anybody that's looking for a crossover is, you really should give it a fair shot. You should drive it, because the driving dynamics are by far the best of any small CUV that I've driven to date.
Okay.
And I honestly think you'd agree. If you got one and you hucked it down a back road, I think you'd be like, you know what, this thing is proper. This is a fun thing. What I would personally do to it is I would get it, I would lower it a little bit, I'd dig through the direct connection catalog, see if I could find a stage kit for it, probably bump it to 300 plus horsepower. I do. It's my favorite. Well, because it's all hop-up parts, man. I love it. So I would do that. There's rumor that they're going to come out with a GLH version. Goes like hell, which harkens back to the 1980 Shelby versions that they used to have of the Shelby Charger and the Shelby Omni and stuff like that. Nice. Yeah. If they're going to go even farther with performance on it, I think you're going to see a lot of people adopt it as the new bigger hot hatch. Yeah. As far as reliability, that's yet to be seen because it's brand new. But you know, it boogied, man. It was a great little crossover. Dude.
I look forward to driving it. I'll probably get it in a few weeks. It's not on my schedule yet, but I'm sure once we get one in the Seattle area fleet, I'll pick it up and check it out, see what it does.
Then we're gonna repick this up then after you drive it, and we'll compare.
Yep, so, absolutely. Okay. We'll compare notes.
Exactly. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is you recently started getting into e-bikes. And for those that don't know, you could go to Ryan's channel, Driving Sports TV. You could check out all the videos as he has. He recently did one on a two-wheel drive e-bike. Forgive me the name of it. What was it called?
It's the Ubco 2x2.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. Fair enough.
It makes more sense because it's actually a New Zealand-based company that designed it. And the U.S. division runs out of Oregon. So they're kind of like Northwest local. But it's built for farms, like to herd animals and to work the back 40, you know?
So would it be like, could you say it would be the EV bike version of a Rokon?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, sure. Nah. It's weird. It's just really weird. When I drive it, I feel a little bit like Steve McQueen in what was that movie where he jumped over the fence? Great Escape, because it's like those wide bars, World War II era kind of feel.
Yeah.
But all-wheel drive electric, and it makes no noise. It's like
but it's a traditional throttle. It's not a thumb throttle.
It's a wrist throttle.
Nice.
Yeah, it is. So this is here's the specs on this thing. It's two-wheel drive. They use hub motors, so there's no direct drive.
Yep.
There's no chain. There's no shaft.
Right.
Literally, it's in the wheels, which is kind of cool. It's kind of like actually like a Rivian in that respect, because they use hub motors as well. It has a pretty big battery for an electric bike in that it's a 3.1 kilowatt hour battery. So that'll get it about 75 miles. The one kicker on this thing, it is. It's like, that's all day. And it's removable. So if you, like, say you run a fleet service and you have 20 of these bikes and they're always outgoing, you can put one in, pull a battery out, put another one in, and you send them on their way. And it takes about 6 hours to charge a battery, so you can just have a whole bunch in a line. Of course, the batteries themselves cost half as much as the bike, because that's the main cost. They're Panasonic, I think, makes the batteries.
Right.
Anyway, so the big the big concern with these bikes for a lot of people is they only do 30 miles an hour. And that is speed
that's pretty
limited.
Quick, though.
If you're on a
on an e-bike, I don't think I'd want to go much faster.
I did 43 yesterday.
Dude, that's booking.
On gravel.
Like that's but here's the thing. That's rightfully quick.
It is. And you can get them with full signals and mirrors. The one I had them send me, they just sent me one for evaluation. I got to send it back when I'm done. And I tell you, I did some hard miles on this thing. Yeah. Because we took it last week. It still hadn't thawed yet in the mountains, but I took it on a mountain adventure, and the snow started getting deep, and it's a rock road, and I'm doing this for like 2 hours. Yeah. And it was that video is going to be fun. I think it's coming out later this week, and that's on my sister channel, Riding Sports. We started putting those on a separate channel just because it's a different audience. Some people are really into that. Some people aren't. Yeah. But really, they are a great accessory to cars, because cars go certain places, bikes go other places. If you only need to go within, like as a commuter, if you only need to go within 10 miles of your house, bike is great. I mean, talk about cheap. One of the one that I just got delivered to me, it's very similar to the Ubco. It's called the Grizzly, and it's by a company called Ariel Rider, which is based out of Seattle. So if you look for Ariel Rider Grizzly, it is a two-wheel drive, also e-bike. It has two batteries. It also goes up to 75 miles. But this is the thing I love about the Grizzly. It has a switch on your left hand. So you can just, as you're riding, you go, I want to be rear wheel drive. I want to be front wheel drive.
That's crazy, dude.
Drive. Whereas the Ubco,
that's cool.
Always all-wheel drive. And the problem with all-wheel drive on a bike is that as you're accelerating, all your weight's in the back. So you're always doing a front wheel burnout, basically, because there's no weight there, but it's 50-50 power.
Sure.
And also, if you're going into a corner and you're goosing the throttle, you're going to get a little washout.
It's going to slide,
Yeah, with the front wheel. So, with the Grizzly, you can be like, oh, rear wheel drive, boom, throttle into the corner. Oh, I'm going straight. I run a really haul ass here. Okay.
Traditional throttle or thumb throttle?
It actually has a wrist. It's kind of it's like a hybrid throttle. It's a little half thing in the handle. Okay. So you can kind of do this, but because it's only half of it, you can also grip on and not, the biggest issue with newbies on bikes is you pull it, you get a little bit of a kick. And I know you used to ride, so you're familiar with it. You get a kick and you want to grab on, which only
of course
you more. So you go from being fast to, oh my God.
Really right.
I was training my kid to drive the Ubco just yesterday. He's been bugging me. And I actually went through a full set of brakes on it. So I had to wait for the brake replacement. So I got the brakes replaced yesterday. And I was teaching him for the very first time to ride a twist throttle. And that's interesting to watch. I'm just like, keep it slow. And you can see in his eyes. And he's like, goes a little,
he wanted it.
It's a little kick. And he like the panic in his eye.
Right.
And he's just trying to grab, but he actually accelerates.
Right.
So that's a weird feeling. So some people who might be familiar with like just traditional e-bikes, the ones with pedals and stuff, may not go for something like the Ubco, because it is very much like a motorcycle.
And what's the cost on something like that?
Those ones start at $5,000, which is high. It is high.
But
it's a big battery. It's built more durable than most of the e-bikes, and it rides like a motorcycle. Although, and it comes with depending on which trim you get, you can get it with, like the one I have has beefy off-road, like really knobby tires. Some of the more street-oriented ones, of course, have more street-oriented tires. You can buy it in whatever package you want. A lot of e-bikes don't give you those big off-road knobbies, though, and it's nice to be able to just order it. Literally, I took the whole motorcycle out of a box. Like it came in a box. I took the side off, I wheeled it out, I turned it on, I was riding within like a minute. Wow. Some of the other ones, like the Ariel Grizzly, there was some assembly required. It kind of came to pieces, and it took about 30 minutes to kind of put it together. Not hard.
What's the speed on the Grizzly? Is that the same as the other
That'll
bike?
go over 40 miles an hour. So here's the thing on e-bikes. They mostly ship with a maximum speed of 20 miles an hour. That's called a class 2 e-bike. That has pedals, and it has a throttle, and it won't go higher than 20. And with those, in most states, it depends on what state you're in, though, because it's state by state, the rules. Most of those are allowable everywhere.
Like I have a Super 73. Yeah. I have a little, which is just the base battery, and it gets like a 15-mile range. It's nothing outstanding.
Yeah, but to tool around in your Durango video.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah, it's just a Super 73. It's 15-mile range, 20 miles an hour. It's fine.
And Super 73 is kind of like the big brand name in e-bikes.
Right.
But if you shop around, you can usually get something better, cheaper.
Right, exactly.
Super 73.
Totally.
But Super 73s look cool. I got to admit, they look like little pit bikes.
You know what, dude? And that's exactly what this one, which is the cheapest one you can get. I think it's $1,100 or $1,200.
Yeah.
It's funny. My warehouse is about 3.5 miles away. Oh. And every now and then I'll jump on the e-bike and I'll just ride that there.
Of course.
But at 20 miles an hour, again, I'm big, like 6'4", 240.
Yeah.
It does not have a 15-mile range with me on it. It drops down to probably about maybe almost in half.
Do you know what
full throttle
output is of that motor on that one? Is it
do not.
750?
Okay. I'm going to look it up right now.
For people who don't know, all the hub motors are rated at different outputs. It's kind of like talking about horsepower with a regular car. Here's a good example. I have a number of 12-degree roads in my area, which are pretty steep for a road.
Right.
With the bike that I could switch modes on, it was a great test. That one has 1,000 watt motors, one in the front, one in the back. With a single so if I'm going in rear wheel drive only, me on the bike, 1,000 watt motor, it can barely get up the hill just by its own power.
Yeah.
Like no pedaling, no nothing. If I go to both motors, which is 2,000 effective output, no problem. I'm accelerating up the hill. So that's kind of the breaking point for hills without pedaling. It's about 1,000 watts if you're over 200 pounds.
Well, this one, it says 900 watt peak, 500 watt nominal, 15-mile range.
Yeah, so the one that I was riding, the Grizzly, is basically the motors are effectively twice as fast as the one that you have, and it has two. So
that would be great, because this one is again, the Z1 is more of an around the neighborhood type bike.
Yes, right. Or that's literally a pit bike. You can ride it.
Pit bike. Absolutely.
You're going to motocross, you want to go here, you want to go there, and it's small enough that you can just chuck it in. The Grizzly is a little bit on the bigger side. I'm 6'1", legs torso proportionate, which is kind of my thing. For some reason, people have glommed onto that as my thing to say. My feet fit flat on the ground sitting on the Grizzly, but barely. So it's not designed for kids.
High.
It's high, and it has high handlebars too, which is kind of funny. Good for cruising, not so great for off-road. But I will say I have jumped it. I got good 2 feet of air with it, and it lands really nice. It has full suspension front and back, and it's super smooth to ride on. And that one goes for $3,300, I think, something like that.
Okay. Let me ask you this. When you're talking about the Grizzly, and again, this is kind of going back to a farm bike, right?
Yeah.
And then you look at like a Yamaha, like a TW200, right? Big fat tire thing.
Those. Oh my gosh. They're so cool.
And those have obviously the range that they'll do 55 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Do you think would you recommend that people would look at some of these e-bikes as a replacement for that, or as an alternative to that? Or as far as downsides, like if you are a farmer, or if you are somebody that needs to go out for the day, will the battery working as hard as you could work it, will it last?
Actually, I have an anecdotal story. I was chatting online with somebody who actually lives in New Zealand, and his brother apparently bought one of these Ubco 2x2 bikes to run on his farm to help with herding cattle. It's like, okay, that's a thing. And they were using motorcycles before, and they didn't really have a problem, but they wanted to use something more like where they didn't have to buy gas. And maintenance also on electric bikes is almost nothing. You basically just have to replace brake pads. That's it, and tires. But he said, and again, I haven't confirmed this story. This is just something he shared with me, that his brother said he was actually attacked by a cow because the cows, even though the electric bikes are really quiet, they still make a buzzing noise. And apparently cows hate it. Or at least this farmer's cows hate it. And they charged him and actually ran him over, and he broke his leg. Oh, shit. Yeah, took him out. Cow took him out. So in that case, I think that guy's going back to a gas powered bike. So it's not good. And obviously the farmers out using these things is a lesser case scenario than somebody doing run around in the city. So for example, if you have a fleet service and you're running like short deliveries, either be it products or food, something like Ubco 2x2
in the city or something like that, I could see that.
Perfect. Like, I don't know why everybody's, they have a higher entry cost. They cost about twice as much as a cheap motorcycle. But again, no gas, no oil,
registration,
no registration.
No DMV
it depends on the city rules. Some cities do require it, but you're basically dealing with, it's just 2 electric motors. That's it. There's nothing in your batteries, but the batteries will last for that kind of stuff. And in that case, they make total sense. If you live in an area where you can get from point A to point B and not have to go onto a freeway, they can make sense if you have that need and if it meets your criteria. As a fun bike, just bringing it out into the middle of nowhere, like I drove. So my drive was across a ridge road in Eastern Washington, and
I'm looking forward to this. When is the video coming out?
It's been edited. I just need to review it, so it's going to be.
I'm looking forward to this. Okay.
So while I was there, this wasn't part of the video, but I noticed this while I was there. There was one other. So we were filming our intro. This is with the Ubco 2x2. It's 30 degrees out, and it had just snowed not too long ago. It's super wet because it's kind of like right in that freezing zone. And these 2 other guys showed up, and they're unloading in the background. They're apparently going the same way we are. One guy has this massive quad. The other guy has probably what was a 750 dual sport.
Wow.
And we're driving, and I start riding. And I stop because we're filming, so we're constantly stopping, and they pass me. And then it starts to get super muddy. And I see the guy with like the 750, he's like trying to push it out of the mud. And he's a big dude too. Right. And a big dude, big bike, and he's like muscling this thing out of the mud. And I literally just drove by him. I mean, it was like two-wheel drive.
So what was their reaction?
It was kind of like, huh? That thing got through that. Okay. Because again, it's knobby tires, it's 2-wheel drive. There are benefits to that. And it's super light. Yeah. And there's something to be said for light bikes. I mean, back when I used to ride early on, I went from a 200 to a 400 to a 750 sport. The natural progression one.
Of course. Yeah.
And that 750, that was a big piece of bike. It's not 1100, but it's
burly bike, sure.
Yeah. To be on the trail and to be able to just be like, move it here. There's something to be said about being able to do that, and also have the bike be able to propel you up a hill like this without losing grip. So it's great. Yes, you have the issue of if you go too far, you're going to run out of juice. But
so that how much out of so it said 70. Like, did you get the afternoon out of it? Does it have a battery gauge on it?
I gave up before the bike did. Basically, started going up a snow-covered hill. I couldn't get it any further. It was bare. It was like this slush was this deep, and I'm like plowing through it, and I just couldn't get it. I mean, like, you can only go so far. So
do they have battery gauges on them? Like a bike would have a fuel gauge?
If you get the higher end version of the bike, it does. That's the thing I hate about the Ubco. You have to use a phone app to monitor everything on the entry level version. And I'm like, just put a battery gauge. It's not hard. So they're not perfect. But I think in general, like a lot of people talk about electric cars versus gas powered cars. A lot of people don't think about the use case of like e-bikes versus motorcycles. A lot of people buy these big motorcycles, don't really need to. I mean,
Sure.
you see guys, how many guys do you know who have been on these sport bikes? And you're like, do you really need that?
Oh, dude, listen, I mean, the fact is, if you have something that can cruise at, if you're going to go around town, you need something that's going to be able to do really kind of 45 miles an hour. Like that's pretty much
kind
the
of
minimum.
Yeah.
Right. 45, 50. If they're at that point, then that's great. Like I have a little Honda scooter, a 150 that maxes at 55.
Yeah.
Right.
And but it's speed limited also at 55, isn't it? Doesn't it have a governor on it, or is that really just the motor?
No, that's pretty wrung out for a 150 scooter with my big ass on it. But the e-bikes make a really good argument because it's very strange getting on a petrol powered scooter or motorcycle as opposed to getting on an e-bike. An e-bike, it still feels like a toy.
Yeah.
Right. And you just get on it and you hit it and you're like,
it's in this universe right now where they're all still kind of new and they're kind of flying under the radar. So if you shop around, you can actually find some that do 60 miles an hour.
Really?
Heck no, would I do 60 miles an hour? These things.
No.
But you look on YouTube, people are like, you just do this little tweak and you get 60 miles an hour out of this thing. I'm like, 40 is sketchy because you're dealing with it's
tiny little hubs, little brakes.
Yeah. Or the little brakes. That is a bit of a concern. The Ubco, they have two different, depending on which trim you get. The entry level one has e-bike brakes, which are like this big.
Yep.
They are hydraulic pistons, but they're tiny.
Tiny.
And then they move up to motorcycle brakes with their adventure bike, which has full turn signals and all that kind of stuff. Which, okay. They actually asked if they could send me an adventure. I'm like, I just want the basic one.
Right. So
I want to see what your basic one looks like. And then maybe later they'll send me another one. But it was fun. It's really been an eye-opening experience for me to be able to, because I saw you in the Super 73 in the Durango video. And I'm like, God, those look like fun. And it's like over the last 10 years, I've seen people ride these things. Every time I'm like, that looks like fun.
And they are
fun. And then I'm like, I rode one. I'm like, why doesn't everybody ride one of these? Aside from the fact not everybody has like $2,000-$3,000 just kicking around, but they actually can, effectively replace a car for short-term commuting. But the most important thing, they are fun. And a lot of people will be like, I want to go bike riding because I like the benefits. I like to get out. I like to exercise, but I don't like the hills or something like that. And it sounds like a big deal, but it doesn't sound like a big deal. But if you live in San Francisco, if you live in Seattle, the hills are no joke.
Crushing.
Do you want to get to work in a sweaty mess?
Right. No.
So an e-bike kind of solves that problem. You're still getting out. You're still getting a little bit of cardio. And you're still being able to ride up those hills without turning into a sweaty disaster by the time you get to your location. And I think there's something to be said about that for certain people, certain users. And again, they're fun. That is the bottom line. They are so much fun and they're very unique. And they get people out riding in a way that, you don't have to commit to a street motorcycle. You don't have to take the test. You can just go out and have some fun. As a side note, my son has been riding a 2-wheel drive scooter that has basically the same output. It goes 40 miles an hour also. And then the company is sending us a faster one that goes 45 now.
Oh God. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing the videos on these things. The first one on the 2-wheel drive bike was great. I'm looking forward to seeing the video on the Grizzly. I would recommend everybody go to Driving Sports TV and Riding Sports TV and take a look at these things.
There's not a lot on Riding Sports yet. We have a couple.
But it's still fun.
But it's basically our fun channel. We're just having fun.
Right.
I mean, heck, when I rode when I rode the first bike that I tried, I'm like, I need to build a single track in my backyard. So I went out with a shovel over the weekend. I built a single track. So now we're filming on my own single track, which is great.
That's rad. No, that's cool. So, and obviously everybody, I mean, this episode was talking about crossovers, demons and e-bikes and whatever, but obviously we're Hemmings. Go to our classifieds, go to our auction, look for your favorite classic or collectible and give it a shot. I'm sure we'll have what you need.
Maybe look for an AMC Hornet.
Maybe look for an AMC Hornet, right? To match your brand new Dodge Hornet if you wanted to go down that road.
Hornet. Somebody's going to do it at a car show,
I know they will. And then I'm just going to face palm as soon as I see it. Be like, don't do that.
Why?
But otherwise, Ryan, as always, sir, thank you for coming on. It's
Thanks,
always wonderful
fun,
to do a little bullshit and talk about cars.
Always good.
And that's it, folks. We'll see you next time on the Hot Rod BBQ. Thanks for listening, folks. And again, please subscribe to the Hot Rod BBQ podcast. If you're on Spotify, check us out there. Subscribe to it on iTunes. And if you are going to go to YouTube, make sure you go to the Hot Rod BBQ podcast and hit that subscribe button, and we'll come to you every week.